The rain-soaked streets of Willow Creek were always deserted at this hour, the only sound being the rhythmic beat of raindrops hitting the pavement. But on this particular night, there was an unease that hung in the air like a thick fog. It was as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. In a small, run-down apartment on Elm Street, 17-year-old Alex Finch lay awake, his ears tuned to the creaks and groans of the old building. He had learned to sleep lightly ever since the night his parents disappeared. The authorities had given up looking, chalking it up to a typical case of wandering souls. But Alex knew better. He knew they wouldn't just leave him behind. As he tossed and turned, the shadows on his wall began to take on twisted forms, like dark, living things. The wind outside picked up, and the old apartment creaked and groaned, making Alex's skin crawl. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. In the blackness, Alex thought he heard a whisper, a soft, raspy voice that seemed to come from all around him. "Find me, Alex. Find me." The words sent a chill down his spine, and he threw off the covers, his heart racing. Who was calling out to him, and what did they want? As he fumbled for the flashlight on his nightstand, the whisper seemed to grow louder, more urgent. "Find me, Alex. Find me." The beam of light cut through the darkness, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The voice, if it was a voice, had stopped, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Alex's heart still racing, he threw on a pair of jeans and a hoodie, his mind racing with possibilities. He had to get out of there, get some fresh air, clear his head. The rain-soaked streets might be deserted, but they were preferable to the oppressive darkness of his apartment. He grabbed his backpack, tucked a small notebook and pen into the pocket, and slipped out into the night. The rain hit him like a slap in the face, but he didn't flinch. The voice, the whisper, it was still echoing in his mind. Who was calling out to him, and why? As he walked, the streets seemed to narrow, the buildings closing in around him like sentinels. The only sound was the rain, drumming against the pavement, and the soft crunch of gravel beneath his feet. He turned a corner, and the old, abandoned movie theater loomed before him, its marquee creaking in the wind. The words Riverview Cinema still clung to the rusty metal, a relic of a bygone era. Alex hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest. Something drew him to the theater, a morbid curiosity, perhaps, or a sense of foreboding. He pushed open the creaking door and stepped into the darkness within. The air inside was stale, heavy with the scent of decay and neglect. Alex's flashlight cast eerie shadows on the walls as he ventured deeper into the abandoned theater. The red velvet seats, once plush and inviting, now sagged and cracked, like the mouths of ancient, toothless creatures. As he wandered down the aisle, the whisper seemed to echo through the empty hall. "Find me, Alex. Find me." The words seemed to come from all around him, from the shadows themselves. He spun around, but he was alone. His beam of light fell on a door, hidden behind the tattered remnants of a curtain. The sign above it read "Projection Room." A shiver ran down his spine as he pushed the door open, the creak of the hinges like a sigh from the depths of the theater. Inside, the room was cramped, the walls lined with rusting equipment and dusty reels of film. But it was the far wall that caught his attention. A series of old-fashioned rotary phones hung like trophies, each one adorned with a small, yellowed note. The topmost note read, "They're waiting for you." Alex's heart skipped a beat as he reached for the phone. The receiver felt heavy in his hand, like a relic from another era. He brought it to his ear, and a voice, low and gravelly, spoke on the other end. "Welcome, Alex. I've been waiting." The line went dead, and Alex was left standing in the silence, the only sound the creaking of the old theater around him. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, casting an eerie glow over the room. The whispers, the voice, it all seemed to come together in that moment. Alex knew he had to get out, get back to the safety of his apartment, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. As he stood there, frozen in uncertainty, the lights began to flicker wildly, like a strobe light in a dance club. The air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, and Alex's skin prickled with gooseflesh. Suddenly, the phones on the wall started ringing, the shrill, cacophonous sound piercing the air. Alex's heart was racing, his breath coming in short gasps. He tried to move to get out of there, but his legs seemed heavy, as if rooted to the spot. One by one, the phones stopped ringing, until only one was left, its bell shrill and insistent. Alex's gaze was fixed on it, mesmerized by the sound. And then it stopped. The silence was deafening. In the sudden stillness, Alex's ears picked up a faint scratching noise, like fingernails on a chalkboard. It was coming from the phone in his hand. He tried to drop it, but it seemed stuck to his ear, as if some unseen force was holding it in place. A low, raspy voice whispered in his ear, "You should have stayed out of this, Alex. You should have stayed out of this." The words sent a chill down his spine, and he tried to scream, but his voice was frozen in his throat. The voice continued, "You want to find your parents? I can take you to them, but you have to come with me." The words hung in the air, like a promise or a threat. Alex's mind was reeling, his thoughts a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. But one thing was certain: he had to know. He had to know what had happened to his parents. And so, with a sense of trepidation, he whispered, "Okay, I'll come with you." The voice on the phone seemed to pause, as if savoring the moment. Then it spoke again. "Good. I'll send someone for you. Wait outside the theater. And come alone." The line went dead, and Alex was left standing in the silent, dimly lit room, the smell of decay and rot hanging heavy in the air. He took a deep breath, trying to clear his head, trying to think. But his mind was a jumble of questions and fears. Who was this person on the phone? What did they want from him? And what did they know about his parents? With a sense of unease, Alex made his way back out into the rain-soaked night, the darkness closing in around him like a shroud. He waited outside the theater, his eyes scanning the deserted streets, his heart pounding in his chest. And then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it, a black sedan, its headlights slashing through the rain, its tires hissing on the wet pavement. The car pulled up in front of him, and a figure leaned over to open the back door. "Get in, Alex," the figure said, its voice muffled by the glass. Alex hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to run, to get away from this place, from these people. But his need to know, to find out what had happened to his parents, propelled him forward. He got into the car, the door closing behind him with a soft click. As the car pulled away from the curb, Alex caught a glimpse of the theater's marquee, the words Riverview Cinema, flashing by in a blur. And then, the darkness closed in around him, and he was gone. The car sped through the deserted streets, the windshield wipers swishing back and forth, casting eerie shadows on the rain-soaked glass. Alex's heart raced with every beat, his mind reeling with questions. Where were they taking him? What did they want from him? The driver, a tall, imposing figure with a bald head and a thick beard, didn't speak a word. His eyes remained fixed on the road ahead, his massive hands gripping the wheel with a grip that seemed almost menacing. As the car turned onto a dark, winding road, the buildings gave way to trees, the trees gave way to fields, and the fields gave way to nothing but darkness. Alex's anxiety spiked, his breathing quickening with every mile. Suddenly, the car slowed, and the driver turned onto a dirt path, the headlights casting an eerie glow over the surrounding woods. The trees seemed to close in around them, the branches creaking ominously in the wind. The car came to a stop in front of an old, dilapidated cabin, its windows boarded up, its door hanging crookedly from its hinges. The driver turned off the engine, and the silence was oppressive. "Get out," the driver growled, his voice like thunder in the stillness. Alex's heart racing, he opened the door and stepped out into the darkness, the only sound being the distant hooting of an owl. The driver followed, his massive frame looming behind Alex like a specter. As Alex approached the cabin, he noticed something strange. The windows, though boarded up, seemed to be watching him. The The boards seemed to be arranged in a peculiar pattern, like a code or a message. And then, the door creaked open, and a figure beckoned him inside. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he stepped across the threshold, into the darkness within.